Did Florida play this past weekend?
Yeah, we played Texas A&M, and it was a good victory.
Oh, they won. Cool.
Yeah, we took Jimbo Fisher, gave him a run for his money. I think Texas A&M, I think they were ranked really high at the start of the season, and they're like,
I think they got up to like 6 or something like that.
Yeah, they're like 3-6 now as far as their record goes.
Dang.
But Jimbo's going to get fired finally. Actually, no, he can't get fired. I'm pretty sure his buyout is like $30 million.
Yikes.
Gosh.
It's like if they were to buy him out, it would be like the biggest coach buyout by multitudes.
Oh my gosh.
So they're in a bad situation. But it's speaking of Jimbo and Florida, it's looking like Florida State might whoop y'all's butt.
Oh, yeah. That hasn't happened in a minute, too.
No, it has not.
And shout out to Florida State for looking good. You
Yeah.
know? I'm sure neither of us really love to see that. You being an ACC fella and me being a state rival. But whatever.
Matthew, if you're listening, congrats.
Yeah, screw you, Matthew. Also, screw you, Matthew. I'm playing you in fantasy football this week, and you're going down.
Dang.
His team's really good, though. But Bengals,
That'll be a good matchup, huh?
Bengals are on a bye, and he's got
Mixon.
He's got Burrow and Chase.
Ooh.
And so that combo's dastardly. Our league has this X Factor thing, too, I think I told you about, where if a touchdown play is over 40 yards, it's an extra 4 points.
You can do that in ESPN?
Yep.
Wow. That sounds fun.
That's cool.
And so same with runs. If a run is over 40 yards for a touchdown, it's an extra 4 points.
That is really cool.
So more of an incentive to get like Valdez Scaling.
Yeah.
Or somebody.
No, honestly, that's why
Nicole Hardman.
Yeah.
this has not panned out well for me, but that's why my first pick was Justin Jefferson over Cooper Kupp. Justin Jefferson's wide receiver number 4, Cooper Kupp's wide receiver number 2. I don't totally regret it, but
Kupp gets volume.
like nobody else, man. He's consistent. He's a beast.
Him and Travis Kelce are just the big volume players.
Yeah. So I get it, but
you went for the deep threat.
I went for the deep threat. It hasn't super panned out, but he had a great game last week. Put up like 30 points. Tyreek Hill, wide receiver number 1. Matthew also has him.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't see that coming, I'll be honest.
I didn't either.
I didn't see the Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Tua
They are nasty.
they have a field day.
Potent.
That's a team. Speaking of the Falcons, like, the Falcons are going to get destroyed if they play a team like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's why we got destroyed by the Bengals, because our secondary.
Yeah.
We were also
Passes
hurt.
between 10 and 20 yards against the Falcons. That's why I'm more worried about 3rd and 20 than I am 3rd and 7.
I completely agree. And I feel like it's been like that for years.
Yeah.
Like just a deep in across the middle. We are not going to defend that.
Nope.
We're just giving it to you. Does anyone know AJ Terrell's health?
I think he almost played on Sunday.
I know Hawkins was back in this game, but
Hawkins is a beast.
yeah.
He was, or wait, no. It was Isaiah Oliver that was making some amazing plays, I think.
Last year? Or in this game?
This last
Oh.
game.
Oh, you know what? We never talked. I was reading the podcast little poster in the restroom, and it says that we talk about movies.
I think we have a little bit. We've talked a little bit about TV shows.
And I'm not putting that on us. I'm putting that on the movie industry.
That's true.
What's there to
It's
talk
been
about
bad.
right now?
I haven't wanted to go to the movies
The cinema.
since I don't even know what.
I honestly can't tell you the last movie
What was that Viking movie that came out?
The Northman.
The Northman. I think that was the last movie I was excited about, and I was kind of let down. But
We also never talk about it also because I never weigh in on the conversation ever. It's just you, like the two of you talking about it. And it's kind of toxic.
wow,
You don't feel seen, buddy?
I don't feel sane.
I am excited about Black Panther.
Hey,
Probably
yeah.
go see that.
Yeah.
I wanted to go see this Dragon Ball movie that came out, and
But
I didn't get to because baby. But
Yeah.
probably
kids are always getting in the way.
yeah. What the heck?
Why can't you just do whatever you want to do?
That's true.
Good point.
Yeah.
Just pay a nanny. One time, my wife and I were at this party, and there was this this couple, and they had just had their second kid, and Rachel was pregnant, and so we were like, hey, any advice going from 1 to 2 kids? And she was like, well, you just pay for a nanny. You just pay for a nanny, and then you're all good. Like you have, just the same amount of time. It's hard after the nanny, but it's like just pay for a nanny. And I was like, wow,
Genius.
so insightful. I can't do that, but I'm glad that works for you.
Would you? No, I was gonna say would you if you could, but you wouldn't. You would just
a nanny. I mean, if Rachel
really wanted to work.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think she'll start working eventually for sure. But she hasn't found this, like, either career she's really excited about or this thing that she really wants to do that would necessitate that, even if we did have the money to hire a full-time nanny. It's also just crazy. Like, I can't, no shade to anyone that has nannies. We really took a sharp turn on. Sorry, guys.
I wanted to talk about movies.
Just like, if you think about it, if you hire a nanny and they are with your kids for 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, that's 30 hours. And then it's like you get home, you do dinner, and then the kids go to bed. And then you have weekends. Like, this nanny is with your kids a lot compared to you. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, especially if, the parents are super happy because they're working or, whatever, they're making their budget work, whatever. Especially if the nanny's great. But I don't know. I struggle with that personally.
I hear you, man. I was thinking about that whole, you get home and there's only a couple of hours before the kid's asleep.
Right.
When I was ironing out my schedule and trying to figure out slots of time to work on some personal projects, some non-Valor related projects. And
so vague.
Like
I was
like building a boat in a bottle.
yeah, yeah. Like, when am I gonna do my bottle boats?
Your model building.
Yeah, like my model cars.
Model cars.
And
Your airsoft hobby.
When am I going to give the guys and play airsoft?
yeah. And when I was looking at my schedule, I was like, if I get home at 5:15 and, after dinner and I want to work, it's just like I would not spend any time with my kid.
Right.
So what do you do?
Hire a manny. So you get a man in there and let him really raise your child.
Genius.
For the absent father in the picture.
Yeah. So you can work. Dude,
Yeah,
this would
great
if we
idea.
did this for like this podcast for 30 years, it'd be really nice to always have like this touch point of like a what's on your mind corner so we could see how our thoughts and like what we're dealing with evolve over the next 30 years because this is just very stereotypical 3 young business daddies navigating how to raise a family and grow their business in 2022.
And look good while doing it.
Let's go!
Yeah, where do you feel like you're looking good and where do you feel like you're looking bad?
What's giving and what's not giving?
What's the good side in your life?
Well, what's on your mind, Ethan?
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Seems like you want to talk about it.
No, I was saying we
No,
were all talking about what's on all of our minds.
You were talking about movies, and I just randomly derailed to whatever I was thinking about.
No, but I have been thinking about what you are currently experiencing as daddies.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense considering you're 2 days away from due date.
Yeah, I'm 2 days out, man. Obviously there's a lot more thought going into like actually bringing the child into
Existence.
Well, yeah.
It already exists, bro.
Yeah, he's there. He's just waiting to come out. He's had enough tummy time. All right.
Time.
Wrong usage. But yes, I'm just saying I can heavily empathize with this. A lot of my thoughts are going this way.
Yeah.
But at some point, they will not. This is not what I will be thinking about in 15 years. I was just reading a book that I think you have already read, The Intentional Father, right?
Yes.
And that book's all about how to take your son through this transition of boy to man from like 13 to 18.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not thinking about that right
Same.
now.
That's how I felt about the whole book.
Yeah. So I'm like, I want to read this, but I also want to just put it on the shelf and be like, I'm going to have to be stewing on this for, 13, 14 years before we get here. But he even mentioned, he's like, every morning during that time period, we would meet in the morning. Like they'd have coffee together every morning. And I was like,
That's fire.
holy crud.
That part is definitely cool. There's a lot of that book that I found really, really cheesy, but I guess that's just my personality type.
And that's
Which I'm trying to get over that about myself. Like I feel like I've become so cynical towards some of those things.
right.
Yeah. Like what kind of stuff?
Like
I've only like read the introduction, so
I'm not even going to talk about the book. I'm just going to talk about where I'm cynical.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. What typically comes across as like eye roll for you?
Like I have become cynical. Just to be clear, there are romantic areas of my life where I'm not cynical, but
You're very romantic.
thank you.
you are a dreamer, baby.
In some areas of romance, I've become a little cynical.
Yeah.
Like
Like
Gucci goo kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
We come back to that. Me and Michaela, like there's definitely love letters and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's become more infrequent. And if nothing else, what I'm saying is that is the fault of me for being cynical. And I don't know.
Sure.
I'm like, where did that come from? Where did that cynical nature come from? Maybe it's like, and even, looking around at some like younger people, it's easy to be like eye roll. And
Right.
I'm like, I was that.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I was there. And
I hear you.
yeah.
Well, it's a vulnerable thing to do. I mean, especially like whenever you're dating and you're like falling in love, like every little special thing you do for them is going to be met with a like, oh, wow, you're amazing. I can't believe you did that. But like later on, like there's been times where I've, and Rachel to me, like given her like a love letter or vice versa. And it's not like the other person like freaks out and is like mind melted crying at this letter. But it's like, so there's a little bit of vulnerability to that of like, if I put myself out there and I do something out of the ordinary and special and romantic, then like, what does love require of me in that scenario? Because if it's to get a response out of her, then that's not love. That's like, I don't know, insecurity or like manipulation.
For sure.
And so like in the like insecurity and the manipulation mindset, it sounds so severe, but it's just in little things. It's like if she doesn't respond, then that can kind of like put a ding on like, oh, maybe I won't do this as much in the future.
Yeah.
That's how it's for me, at least.
Sure.
I don't know if you relate to that.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, props to my wife. She always gives me great responses anytime I do anything for her. But like you were saying, like if that is where if the root of my generosity or love is to feel some amount of gratification from Michaela, then it's coming from the wrong spot anyways. So having a kid will really bring some reality to being a little bit more selfless. And I mean, there's definitely areas where I fall short in helping with the baby.
Sure.
But
To build your boats.
to build my model cars.
You're in the garage, the man cave,
Yeah.
baby, like with your little tweezer shit,
Yep.
like with your boats.
Oh yeah. With all that being said, you have a baby and it's just like you do something for the baby and then they just cry more. And you're like,
Right.
okay,
I was trying
I'm gonna learn how to do this whole selfless thing a little bit more.
Me at 3 a.m. last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I think we just wrap there.
I think that's a
It's such a great and natural segue into our topic of the day.
totally.
Don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. Well, do you want to go there?
Yeah, let's go there.
So, the way I want to introduce this topic, I've been stewing on this for a really long time, and shout out to Ross for actually coming up with what we want to dive into today. But I cannot remember who I was talking to about this, but you're at Valor, right? Say we're working behind the bar, ripping it up, and these people come up to me and they're like, "How do you have such an awesome team?" Like, and people might say that to me, or I can remember a specific time where I was working with Lillaby, and this guy was like, "I own 12 restaurants in Virginia, and I could use 40 of you at my restaurant. How do I get people like you to work at my place?" And we're just gonna explore that question, right? How do you get the right people in your corner, on your team?
Yeah.
And it's multi-layered. All right, it's complex, but it's in one sense simple, right?
Yeah, it really is. And a lot of that is through interviewing people, finding the right people. But it'd be great if you never had to interview anyone. In theory, it's like, I think of specifically Lillaby.
Right.
She was a regular in our cafe, and we just connected with her because there was a similarity there in values. Mm-hmm. We valued the same things, and it was like deep calls unto deep. Like when we spoke with one another behind the bar, it's not like we were better than anyone. It's just like we really connected with her.
And that could probably be said for a few of the people on the team.
Mikey too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, two of our
Colby.
longer standing employees was just like Mikey came into the cafe one day, Lillaby came into the cafe one day, we connected, and then we like poached them.
All three of our first hires were a product of that.
Right. Yeah, we didn't just say like we're hiring,
Mm-hmm. Which there's nothing wrong with that, and we'll get into it. But
yeah, for sure. But I like how broad you set it up, because initially we were just going to talk about interviews, but it's way more than that. It's the only reason you would interview someone is to figure out if they value what you value.
Right.
And so, kind of getting into like our history with interviews, I'm wondering for you guys. So like before we started Valor, what did interviews look like for you? Like, did you ever get interviewed at any of your jobs over the years?
yes.
What was your first interview?
Was it Levi's?
No, we're going to predate that. I thought about this this past weekend while I was in the shower, actually, doing my shower thoughts.
Dude, that should be, so you got Culture Couch, then we'll do shower thoughts with Riley.
Yes.
In the shower. And then you like review different soap.
If we would have put a freaking shower here, not going to happen.
God, I thought about that this morning.
Especially now that we're all working out, getting swole.
We could probably get a, how much do you think it would cost to install a shower? No.
$2,000.
That's really not that bad.
I think like $2,000 or under.
Because you just buy like the assembly, and
Yeah.
then you just got to run water.
Yeah.
And a drain.
And a drain. But there's a floor drain in there. It can't be that far. All right, we'll talk about it later. So
if you're a plumber, smash like.
yes.
And then hit us up about how much it would cost for us to have a shower.
Where are all my plumbers at? Anyways, so my first interview was at The Gap. Okay. And I was probably 16 years old, because my first job was at Bert's Pumpkin Farm. Let's be clear.
Which is a family business.
Family business, not my family, but a closely associated family nonetheless. My first year working there, I was 14 years old, and I restocked the shelves with apple and pumpkin bread. And that was my entire job.
I wonder if we crossed paths.
You think?
I mean, I was a Burt Stan, so.
Well, we either crossed paths there or at Cupbearer.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me started.
Yeah, so that was my first job, but I didn't have to interview there. So the Gap, I went for my interview, and it was a group interview.
No.
Yeah, and it was like I was definitely the youngest person there. Everyone else was like mid-20s to mid-40s, just looking for a seasonal job. The job itself was seasonal, and I think I answered one question. I don't remember what it was. There was some involvement with sticky notes.
Like,
Okay.
what's your favorite color of sticky notes?
I was thinking more of like I wrote something on sticky notes, but afterwards, you went one-on-one with the hiring manager, and she was just like, "Yep, you if you have the job. If you want it, the pay is minimum wage." And then I didn't take the job.
No.
Dang.
Why didn't you take it?
I can't remember.
You didn't want minimum wage.
Yeah, I was looking for more like 17, 18 an hour.
4-day work week too.
Yeah. Yep.
So you didn't take the job. It was a group interview.
Mm-hmm.
You answered one question.
Yes.
I'm interested to hear on a group interview, is it like they ask the question to the whole group and then they see who speaks up
I think there was some of that, and I think I might have gotten singled out for a question.
because you weren't answering the other
No,
questions?
no. It wasn't that. I was prepared for the interview. I'm gonna give myself some credit.
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you prepare for the interview?
I don't know. I probably just Googled like common interview questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your biggest weakness? I work too hard.
I care too much. I'm a perfectionist. Okay. Ethan, what was your first interview?
Can I go a little bit further?
Please.
My first proper.
Wait, can I go?
No, Riley goes.
I just wasn't done, and you cut me off.
I apologize. I wish it didn't happen.
That violated my values.
I will learn from this and never do it again.
Okay, I'll hold
We'll
you
get to
it.
this later.
So from there, I did work at Levi's, and I had a more proper interview there, but it was still a seasonal job. And then I think after Levi's, it was just contract music at churches until we worked at our first coffee job, and that interview was a joke.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you guys like coffee? Yeah, you've got the job.
Yeah.
Name 3 coffee companies and you're hired.
Yeah. And so that was a joke. And then the next coffee job after that, I also don't really remember much about the interview whatsoever. It was just literally all based around coffee knowledge.
Right.
What's the best coffee? That's my favorite coffee.
How do you pick your roasts?
And then my final coffee job before Valor was the most thorough interview for sure.
Yeah.
But it was
You
the
were
first
there,
one.
You were there so long. Makes sense.
Shut up. The first one was a phone interview, and then the second one was an in-person interview. And I got that job because I was like, I'm starting a company, and so I had the drive for that. And then I just knew so much about the brand, and then this place also had a retail store. I knew so much about those brands as well. But
That probably helped a lot that you were already kind of passionate about
Yeah.
the brands they were selling, especially because those were kind of rare,
for sure.
niche audience
Yep.
kind of stuff.
And so I look at Valor's interview process, and I've seriously had the thought, like, would I get hired here?
Oh, man.
And I don't know if I would, like personality type and whatnot, which I'm not made to work behind the bar.
Well, we're about to find out. We're going to interview each other later.
Great.
So we'll find out if you get hired.
Dude.
And
I'm not going easy on you.
In
I'm
quote,
bad cop, okay?
I'm done.
I'm bad cop.
I'm good cop. Thanks for sharing your story with us,
Yeah,
man.
thanks for your truth.
Thank you. Yeah, if you need more, just follow me on Instagram
TRW.
at TRW.
That'd be sick.
That would be sick.
Is it-
I've tried. Trust me.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah. What was your first interview?
I did an interview for job 1 when I was 14. I did an interview for job 2 when I was 16. I did an interview for job 3 when I was 18. And then I think when I was still 18, I interviewed with Malvi because but I don't really remember the interview. because it was more like Laura, the person who owns Malvi's, super casual, and so she was just I think she really likes to make things not super structured and weird. So she's like, hey, just come have breakfast with me, and I think Paris, her husband, will be there, and so eating breakfast at their restaurant is like one of my favorite things in the whole world. So it was kind of hard for me to like have a conversation with someone
because you were chowing down.
Because I was like so excited to eat the food. And if my wife listens to this, she knows that I am terrible talking when there's food in front of me, because I laser
Your wife
in.
is listening to this, dude. We know it too.
Yeah, I just laser in so hard. And then when I'm done with my food, I just stare at other people's food, waiting for them to offer me their food. So I'm sure I just squeezed past that interview. So that was my first interview, and it was casual, it was chill, it was really fun. I think it was more just like, I really think it was just more about like the person. Like she was just asking me about my life, and I was sharing, and then I knew Laura's in-laws really, really well through going to their restaurant. So it was pretty casual. But beyond that, I think
would you say you kind of interviewed with us a little bit?
Wow, what would you guys think? So, I mean, that's a fun insight we maybe touch on every once in a while, but I'm not a founder.
Yes, you are.
Of Valor.
Yeah, we stripped you of that title.
Just owner.
My Coner.
Just Coner.
My first touch point was Ross offering me a position with his company. And so I don't know, what do you guys remember those times?
I think you were vetted, if nothing else, but maybe not.
Like we just did things together because we made coffee at Soma together, and
You are a founder. Let's be clear. We never did anything in this company without you.
Does it say anything on my email? Does it say founder?
It says co-founder.
That would be hilarious if it didn't say co-founder on your signature.
Yeah, hold on one second.
Riley made for you.
I didn't make it. Ariel did.
Okay.
Also, shut your mouth, Russ.
Okay. All right. Is it my turn yet?
Yeah, I don't remember anything else about my other jobs. No offense to my other jobs.
Yeah. I don't think I
interviewed with Nito. I remember that.
Yeah. I think my first interview was probably our first coffee job, Big T, the one you were talking about. That was a joke. And it really was just like me sitting down with the owner and going into that job. The whole reason we were interested in it was because they didn't know how to make coffee, and we were just getting into coffee at the time. And so we were really excited to just give all of our wealth of knowledge from being a home barista and internet coffee person. And so the whole interview was just me telling him about coffee and him being like, oh, okay. All right, this will be good to implement. And then by the end of the interview, there was no talk of like offering me a job or whatever. It was just like I already had it. And
the confidence.
And it really wasn't that at all. It was just like he wasn't even interviewing me at all. He was just like asking me how to make coffee. And I was like telling him my very little knowledge that I thought was like a lot of knowledge at the time. And then I think my first proper interview was for my second coffee job, where I sat down with the manager, and it was similar to you. Like she just asked me about my life and like what I was passionate about. Mm-hmm. And then that was kind of it. Which, what's with that, guys? Like,
what do you mean?
The fact that the three of us have like kind of never had an interview like you did with your corporate jobs. But even that,
Levi's and Gap.
Yeah. I say corporate jobs. It makes it sound like a desk job.
My white collar jobs.
Yeah. You're like your corporation, your mall jobs. But it's like you got offered the job on the spot, It's not like you were a bad kid or something. Like you're a great kid. But
awesome. Yeah, let's be clear.
So I get why she offered you the job on the spot. But it's like, I don't know if you would agree, but it's like it was all of our interviews were kind of like way different than how we do things, in the sense of like they're not thorough. You usually know if you got the job or not on the spot. Which, can you imagine like us doing that? Like, I think we've maybe done that once before, like offer someone a job on the spot.
Right.
But for the most part, it's like a lot of deliberation, multiple interviews. We technically have 3 interviews.
Yeah.
3 rounds. But what do you think people's mindset is on that? As far as like, oh, it'll be fine. Like they seem like a good kid. Like you didn't get interviewed at all.
Yeah.
Until
I do not think it's to our like prowess as amazing people. I think it's more the opposite of like these companies don't value hiring properly, and they just are looking for bodies, and that's unfortunate. And that works, you know. Mm-hmm. A lot of companies are fine, but I think that we're different. To say that you're like, how could we run it so differently? It's like, well, we have a vastly different company, you know.
Well, let's be clear. We are in a company. We're in an industry with very high turnover. And we're talking about hiring for a position that someone can come into that has 0 experience.
Right.
And so it does line up that the norm is mediocre for the hiring process. And we are definitely the exception to the rule. But everyone should be the exception to the rule who wants to, you know, have a good company culture, which leads to more business. Mm-hmm. So that's where I guess I come from, is like, you know, these people are hiring and they're just like literally want to hire someone that's a decent person.
Yeah.
And because they're like, this person's not going to be here a year from now.
Right.
And that makes sense. And I'm not going to say that we haven't adopted maybe a little bit of that mentality.
Sure.
Because we totally have. Just the reality of of the business is you only have so much area for growth. And so to go ahead and be really yourself up front, we're not asking, you know, entry-level employee in our company to stay around for 3 years.
Well, yeah, and something you said about you can get hired with 0 experience. It's like, I think in usual coffee jobs or in usual service jobs or even retail jobs at the mall, if you have some experience, then the interview is even shorter. Mm-hmm. If you have no experience, then it's like, then they kind of need to figure out if you're kind of teachable.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing, a huge philosophy for us has been, the majority of the people we have hired have had 0 coffee experience. And a lot of them have had 0 hospitality or food service experience. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be even more thorough with those people, because not only are we going to have to teach them how to operate our machine. When I say machine, I just mean like Valor in general, not the espresso machine, even though we do have to teach them that. We have to figure out, are they teachable? Are they humble? Are they hungry?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think to summarize both of our responses, the answer is kind of like the only jobs that we've ever applied for have been entry level.
Yeah.
And entry level jobs have high turnover and don't value like longevity or vetting as much as maybe degree jobs. And this just seems like a reality. But for us, that is something that we have noticed and tried to capitalize on, because there's so many amazing people out there with amazing potential, and for career opportunities in a small business, that if we do value and vet our people, we're not just going to like have this hodgepodge group of people that don't know how to communicate well or like have drive or determination in their lives, because you got to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, even these corporate positions and like think about how much I say corporate again, like looking at a retail job, like Levi's outlet at the outlet mall. If they were hiring for their general manager, that would be a way more thorough process that would involve the corporate interviews and stuff. And think about Valor. Obviously, we haven't operated like this, and I don't know if we ever will, but if we opened a cafe in Bozeman, Montana, and we were like hiring general manager, think about how many rounds of interviews we'd have then.
Oh, yeah.
Or personality tests and whatnot. So it's just a completely different animal in some industries and scenarios.
Thank you. So I guess we're just kind of trying to raise the bar and like be a stickler about these entry-level positions with our interview process.
Yeah, because there's just something to... There's a few different ways. I was talking to Elijah about this before he moved to Ohio. And he was talking about one of the things that makes Valor so amazing is this, and it sounds weird, but like this collective imagination that like we are the best coffee shop. If we all believe that we're the best coffee shop, we're going to act like we are the best coffee shop. But to have that collective imagination, you have to bring people in that believe that. Because like how much worse would Valor be if we brought someone in who was so cynical and like, I guess like dark.
I hate cynicism.
Yeah.
It's so toxic.
Oddly enough, I feel like the first employee that we hired that didn't think we were the best coffee shop was Elijah.
That's funny. But he stuck
he had
it
to
out.
learn that we were the best coffee shop.
But like,
That's so funny.
something's on.
But he makes a hell of a cortado.
Yeah,
So.
all of our cortado. But there is this like you make something valuable by putting value into it, and the team is one of the biggest like sources for that. Like if they're willing to put in the value into the place they're at, does that track?
Yeah. Well, on the entry level thing, like, why would you? Okay. Well, I know why, but I'll say it anyways. Why would you put the lowest amount of effort into sourcing the people on your entry level positions whenever your entry level positions are usually the only people interacting with your customers?
Right.
Like, I get why, because of what Big T said, like the turnover thing.
Or like money. Like, well, they don't cost that much, so I guess they're not that valuable.
Yeah, I get that. And I get why you would have a really long vetting process for hiring a more senior position. But at the end of the day, like the three of us are sitting here doing fire radio content. We're not behind the bar.
Right.
You know? And so like the people that we've hired that are quote unquote on entry level positions, that like we had to spend a lot of time interviewing them because they're behind the bar right now and not us.
Right.
And it's back to that thing that we talked about in our orientation that we got from my mom, which is the upside down triangle of like usually a company org chart is you have the executives at the top of the triangle, you have the senior managers, and then you have the supervisors, and then you have the entry level positions at the bottom, and everybody kind of feeds back in. So I'm going to put this baseball down. Feeds up towards the executives, and the executives at the top, they make all the decisions and all the calls, and it just trickles down to the bottom. But we want to flip that thing upside down so that the entry level positions who know the most about our operation and know the most about our customers they're empowered to like source ideas, and then with the visual of the executives, aka us. Although it's weird, I feel like it's weird to call us executives, but
C-suite.
But we're just supporting those people. So I think also having that mentality of the entry level people that are paid the least in the organization are the people who make us who we are, because they're the ones interacting with the guests.
Yeah, they have like the greatest effect on the daily experience for your company if you're in retail or food and bev, obviously.
How many interviews do you guys think we've done since we started?
50.
50?
Yeah.
I think even more. Or how about this? How many people have we hired? feel like that's around like 25,
Yeah, I'd say 25 max.
25 max. So
I've wanted to. You guys keep talking. I've wanted to get an answer on that for a long time, and I finally figured out how.
look at our software.
Yeah, let me go to Valor.
If we've
software.
hired 25 people, that means we've done hundreds of interviews. Because we surely haven't done. If we did 50 interviews and hired 25 people.
Bro, think about how many of those people were like, hey, do you want to work at Valor, though?
Well, okay, that's an interesting thing too, right? Like, how many people do you think we've just like? I prefer to like poach people from their jobs.
Same.
26.
26 people.
That's
total.
crazy.
Does that include us or no?
No, we're 29.
Great.
Oh, I'm 25 years old.
I almost walked up to this cat in Home Depot. This dude, he looked like he was like 18 years old, and he helped me out, and with a smile on his face, so kind, so knowledgeable. He was like putting
Home Depot Dunwoody?
yeah,
Nice.
yes,
Nice.
And I don't know why I didn't do it, but I should. That's the kind of situation where I'm like, hey, we've got a coffee shop down the road. Have you ever thought about working in coffee?
Dude, the good news is I can guarantee you will be at that Home Depot again, probably tomorrow.
I hope that he is there, and if he is, I will talk to him.
Perfect.
But why is that helpful to like, I think it's helpful to poach someone. It's kind of a severe word, but
Bro, when you see someone living a certain way, there is so much fluff and bullshit that comes from people in an interview. And I don't say that to discredit anyone from being really great in an interview, because we've had that, clearly. But people, there's enough about our brand out there now that if people do any due diligence in looking into what Valor is,
oh yeah,
they will see and understand what they need to tell us to get the job.
let alone if they watch this program,
Yes.
like this one specifically.
Yeah. But we, fortunately, I think our interview process, much to the credit of you boys, is good enough to, throw out questions that dig too deep for them to fake it till they make it.
Yeah.
But it's so much easier to see someone living out something in their current role, like that guy at Home Depot.
Oh yeah.
That happened to me one time, and I still regret it. In East Cobb FedEx, there was
I've heard you talk about this so much.
There was this girl behind the counter, and she was just like, it was like crazy in there, and she was just like so happy to be working at FedEx.
Yeah.
And I really regret not offering her a job.
Dang it.
Maybe we'll cross paths again
You just got to keep going.
in a different scenario.
God, please. Okay, how about this? What do we think about interviewing alone versus interviewing with a person beside you, a cohort?
Dude, you gotta. We've both. Hey, when did you start and stop interviewing? You were obviously a part of the first round, but then because, to be clear, it's not that he's not that Riley did anything bad. It's just he's not over the cafe, and we hire for the cafe. So you were over interviews for like Sam, our roaster, and Ariel, when she transitioned to the roastery. But how far along were you? Do you remember your like last couple cafe interviews?
I remember you sat in on Mikey's second interview at
That definitely wasn't the last
Bodie
one,
Waller.
though.
There's Mikey.
I was definitely in.
What about Ariel?
I think I might have been in one of Ariel's interviews, and that was probably the last one.
Yeah.
One of her cafe interviews.
That was like winter 2020.
Yeah.
2020.
And I feel like, this just sounds so terrible. I feel like one of the reasons I stopped interviewing was so that people would stop assuming I had an idea of anything that happens at the cafe.
Yeah.
Because that was a thing. It would be like, I would walk through the front door and they'd be like, hey, do you know where the napkins are?
Yeah.
I'd be like, I have no
I don't
clue.
even know what a napkin is, bro.
Just having the right expectation.
Yeah, like, what's the chai recipe? And I'm like, you put the chai in the milk.
Just
and
try equal parts.
You shake it all up.
Part. So your question was single, like individual interview versus cohort, and maybe a relatable example is like maybe you own a company by yourself, and you're like, do I interview by myself or do I involve someone on my team that's been there a while? Blah blah blah. We love the team interview. We love involving people in the interview process. We love. Me and Ross try to be in all interviews as much as possible for
at least
cafe.
One.
Because interviewing by yourself, sometimes I feel like the person conducting the interview, especially if they've only done 100, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not.
Yeah.
You can get just kind of focused in on like, okay, how am I interviewing? What questions do I need to ask? And you're not really, at least for me, that's a struggle point of like, I'm trying to keep this thing moving, but I also need to be listening. And so having multiple sets of eyes and ears and noses on the situation, I think is super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. We've also included too many people into interviews,
Yeah.
which there's pros to that. Like there's been a lot of times where we've just literally been at the roastery and someone random from the cafe was in there, and we were like, hey, you want to sit in on this interview and give your thoughts? And if it's the right person, they're going to be respectful about it and just like, interject when is appropriate, and they'll give their thoughts. But sometimes, it can be a wrong fit. And so I think we have only been including salaried employees on interviews.
Yeah.
Because we were spending too much hourly money in, getting people from the cafe in on interviews.
Yeah. And then there's creative ways to get other people on your team a part of interviews. So something we started doing that I really like is like trying to have the interviews at the cafe, make them show up, be like, hey, just get in line and order. And have them interact with the team as a guest, and you can kind of get a good a sense of a person that way as well. And those people are already paid to be there, and they're excited.
Right.
And we used to do fun. This is all small, but when we would do them at the cafe, it was fun to like have our team come and like interrupt in funny ways and just like test the waters a little bit. So we'd have people come with like shots of like baby mochas, and we would all take a shot together, and some people would be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And then we'd be like, oh, you don't like to party. We only hire party animals.
Well, yeah, I mean,
do you think that you ever hired someone who didn't take the shot? Because I would wager that the answer is no.
There's no way that we hired someone that didn't take the shot.
Yeah, well, because there's different approaches to an interview. One is just like asking questions straight up and seeing what their answers are. And the other is all of the situational stuff, like, which is why it's so great for me to walk through Home Depot and see freaking Jimmy.
It's like viability versus viability.
Pretty much.
Doesn't Chick-fil-A, I heard this. Did you hear that? You know what I'm about to say?
Yes, I do.
There's some rumor that before every interview, they would put a piece of trash in the interviewee's way on their way, either like up to the door or like as they walk in. And if they stopped and picked it up, that was like a big thumbs up moment.
Yeah, but there's a good principle in that,
No, I love that.
It's awesome.
And it also scares the crap out of me if I ever had to interview somewhere. I'm like,
you're
like
looking around for everything.
Clean.
But catching them kind of off guard with the shots thing, just see that, because that's such a huge part of working behind the bar is the ability to socially adapt to situations and be able to like receive something unexpected from someone else and be able to like kind of banter and like BS and like do all that thing.
One of my favorite things, and this is small and I want to keep going on philosophy, but I love to just offer someone water or coffee on the interview and just like, if they're just like, nope, no.
Yeah,
that's like, dude, it's water. Just like, and that's something I didn't understand for a long time, but like, you're helping me out by saying yes. Like, it's a nice thing to receive. Like, I would be happier if you wanted something from me. And that's like, that's pretty deep. But like that's pretty important too, as far as a person coming on the team is like, are you going to be like collaborative and helpful to someone else? Even if you're not thirsty, just take water.
Right.
And so now we should call this one like 3 ways to get hired at Valor, or like 3 secrets that will get you hired at Valor.
Yeah.
So
Great.
take the water.
Great clickbait. How about this? People feeling nervous in interviews. I mean,
Right.
some people are very visibly nervous, and it's pretty uncomfortable. And
I respect the nerves.
Like, let's just put him on blast. Sam Thomas was a nervous interviewer for us.
okay, great example of someone who, the things he was saying in his interview were great. It's just that like he was acting like a different person
Yeah, so
in his interview.
that touches on this philosophy that we've been kind of towing the line of, which is I think your natural style is you want to apply pressure
Yeah.
to make cracks, and then look through those cracks and see what like character is behind that, right? My latest philosophy is like I want to make someone so comfortable that they're not cracking, they're just opening themselves up and revealing their character because they're so dang comfortable.
So you like put your legs up on the conference table. And
Yes. Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
what's up, man? How
Well,
was
yeah,
your week?
They're just going to be more vulnerable.
You like eat a granola bar, drop the wrapper on the floor. Like that
Someone else will clean it up. We're chill here. Hey, what's your favorite way to be chill? I don't know.
Yeah. When people are nervous in interviews, it can be difficult to know how to deal with that. Because one, it tells you something about them. It tells you a little bit about their just social resiliency, but it also tells you that they really want the job. And,
Yeah.
they really, really care.
And we've had over chill. We'd be like, whoa,
Yeah.
are you interested?
Yes. Yeah. To where you're
Or like when I start working here. That's always a funny one.
yeah. What are
No,
some,
I mean, not saying that in the interview because, like, sure, that's a scenario, but just like someone who's like, yeah, I'm looking for a job. I think I'll probably work at Valor.
right.
You're like, oh, okay.
Okay, other
will.
red flags. This is a good one. What if people? Because we ask people questions about their former jobs, right? We ask them about their former bosses, their former coworkers. We ask them specifically, and you guys get your answers ready because I'm going to ask you this question. But a time where they received a tough piece of feedback or they had a confrontation at work, all this stuff. I am always so interested to hear how people answer those questions, not what the answer is. And what I mean is if somebody answers the question of like, tell me about your former boss, and they are talking about it in a really disrespectful way of like, this dude sucked. He was toxic. Like maybe he did suck and he probably did. Like a lot of times bosses suck. I get that. But the way they talk about it tells me so much about who they are and like how much grace they're going to give their future bosses if they work at Valor. Mm-hmm. And so that's always that's like a classic red flag for me is like if somebody comes in and they're just like bashing their former jobs,
Yeah.
And it's tough because like I said, it's very possible and dare I say probable that the past job did suck.
Right.
Especially, in some ways. Every job sucks in some ways. But yeah, I mean, what do you guys agree with that? Like, what if somebody comes in and they just like start bashing their last job?
I think that is pretty much instant red flag because I'm just like, you're going to work here for a blank amount of time and then you're going to go somewhere else and do the same thing about Valor, no matter the scenario.
Yeah, you've always weighed in on this idea, Big T, of like seeing a repeat behavior in someone, and even if they're in a great place to work like Valor, they're just going to like perpetuate. Is that the right word? Propagate? I don't know. Perpetuate that same behavior.
Yeah.
No matter how great the job is, they're going to find a way to be unhappy.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that does tend to be a character flaw of some people.
Yeah, for sure. And I'd say, some personality types are a little bit more susceptible to that than others. Definitely very entrepreneurial types can often be that way.
which is a good thing.
Yeah.
To some extent too.
If that's going to fuel the fire of you starting your own business, which I would say for us, it kind of did.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if I would have taken my bad experiences at work into a job interview. And I don't think I would. But yeah, I think that's a pretty huge red flag, because it shows, it shows a lack of situational awareness. Like, who are you talking to when you're getting hired?
Yeah.
You're talking to your next boss, who might want references to that old boss that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think of my own journey in this, where in my past jobs, there were times, like as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, where I just thought my job was I thought my boss was a complete idiot. He didn't care. He didn't care about his employees. Definitely doesn't care about specialty coffee. And I was like, oh, he doesn't know what's up, whatever. And that is just so nearsighted and immature. Like, sure, things weren't perfectly ideal. Like, maybe it wasn't a perfect job. Maybe he wasn't a perfect boss. But I lacked, like you said, the awareness and the understanding to be like, this guy's just trying to run a business.
Right.
Like, he's not evil. There are some evil bosses out there that totally suck. But
Like the movie Horrible Bosses.
perfect example.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the thing I think of chiefly, is like people's lack of grace and humility and understanding to like give someone the benefit of the doubt and be like, look, this boss, he was having a hard time, he was inexperienced or whatever, and here's how it affected me.
Yeah, well, I think that's what you're getting to that I wanted to say, was that there's a really, and we've seen it with a lot of people on the team, and it's a green flag, right? When we ask this question, is what we're looking for a green flag?
Yeah,
Are we looking for any flags?
We're looking for checkered flags.
White flag. Like,
Yeah.
they give up.
I raise my white flag.
It's not how it goes.
Really?
Yes.
But to ask that question and to see someone like honor their past work experience, but be honest and go beyond like, yeah, my boss was an idiot. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's being able to have the wisdom and the discernment to understand why it was bad and communicating that, less of an attack on the person.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, my job was difficult for these reasons. And, my boss had a hard time struggling. Or he had a hard time with that.
Honesty is not the problem. Like, I've had a lot of people in interviews be completely honest about how terrible their last jobs were, and I never felt an ounce of disrespect or dishonor.
Right.
Like, you can honor your past bosses while still being honest about your experience in that, and still like answer the question, because it's a negative question. It's a tough question. Like, what sucked about your last job?
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's why we ask these questions.
Do you think, as a form of critique and, positive outlook, that people who you look at and say, man, that person would not be happy in any job they're in, how do you change that about yourself?
Well, I look at myself, kind of what I was saying earlier about I wasn't happy in any of my jobs because I was just so passionate about changing everything now. So that's better. But I lacked the understanding of what it would take to make that happen. And like if my bosses just said yes to everything that I wanted to do to make everything better, then they're saying no to other things. They're saying no to maybe money, or they're saying no to like another menu item, or they're saying no to, I can't remember all the ideas I had, but I was just like, the ideas, like, let's change everything. Let's make it
Ideas
better.
liaison.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think for me, I bet it's just different for everybody, but it took me just getting turned down enough times And it took me starting a business and realizing how difficult it is to be like, man, the ideas guy is not always the helpful guy. Like the helpful guy is the helpful guy. It's not necessarily truly helpful, moving the needle towards better just to have ideas. It's like the manner in which you deliver them, the timing in which you deliver them, and the understanding in which you deliver them. I think of Sam. We always talk about Sam. He's our roaster. And he is so good at that. Like, he totally is an ideas guy, but he always is like, yeah, and I know you may be thinking this, and I also know that this is also part of, there's this dynamic over here. And it's like, I think he's just honed that skill because, one, we have trust within our team. He knows that we're all trying to do a great job.
Right.
And he knows we all care a lot. And he also pretty thoroughly understands our operation in a lot of ways better than us. And so is able to use that context, that understanding, that grace, and that like just optimism, I guess. I think I used to have such pessimism in the workplace and cynicism even. Of just like, everything sucks. Everything needs to get better. I know how to do it. / secretly, I kind of don't know how to do it because I'm young.
Wink, wink.
So I don't know. I don't know like how to tell people to get out of that mindset. But for me, it was like just growing up.
Yeah, it sounds like a little bit just reality check, right? Of
Yeah.
like, you're soon going to be in a position where you have to execute ideas and make things better without support, and so you're gonna feel it, And so probably a lot of those people get rewarded for thinking things should be better, and they make it into like a management position. And they're like, "Dang, this is not working," and you kind of learn to honor the honest work, right? Hey, what else we got, dude?
Yeah,
You want to start
okay.
going through some
So
questions?
instead of just going through all these interview questions at once, I love the conversation. Let's keep talking, but let's pepper these in. All right, let's ask these questions. We'll stew on them for a little bit.
And these are actual questions that we use.
I have our interview pulled up on my computer right now.
That's a priceless document.
No, it's not.
Yeah. This next part of the podcast is going to be paywalled.
Right.
Paywalled and paywalled now.
But you can still listen for free. The question's just going to sound like...
Okay, first question. Can I get you guys some coffee?
Oh, yes, I would love a cup of coffee.
Do you guys want, seriously, do you want some more? Because I want some more.
That's funny.
I'll take it. I'll take a top.
Yeah. Can you make me a cappuccino? I heard it's International Cappuccino Day. So
Shout out to all the cappuccinos out
I
there.
am not going to do that unless we have milk.
I'm just kidding. I don't want a cappuccino.
So that was the first question. You all passed. The second
collection.
the collection of questions.
Dude, are we allowed to make fun of the interviewer?
If you want the job, I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Okay, guys, tell me. And this question goes to Ethan first. Tell me about tell me something.
I hate this.
Oh, we're going to have some dead air. It's going to tell me at a time, and I'm like, I don't know what time is.
Okay. Hey, and that's a great point too. And we learned this in some book. I think it was The Ideal Team Player by Patrick Lencioni, of letting there be silence. Never bail someone out of an interview question.
You just sit there and you do this.
And this is the kind of stuff I love, and maybe you're trying to swing away from.
I'm
maybe.
always like, take all the time you need. I'm just going to be filling this silence with stupid words.
Well, that's okay. What's not okay, I think, is, so here's the question. What is a strength of yours that you are trying to develop or step more into? And so what not to do would be like, a strength could be like this, or, and for me, it's this. And, sometimes you may not even know. And so if you don't answer, that's totally fine. But also, if you do, just want you to feel comfortable. And when you and just like all that BS, like ask the question. If they need to think about it, let there be silence. And also you get to see how they interact with silence, which is cool because you learn more about them. But yeah, boys, that's the question. I'm going to get you guys some coffee.
So what's a strength of ours, and how are we trying to grow it?
Yeah.
I actually have an answer.
Me too.
Well, this one, thankfully, is a little less like worky, or like it's about like our past, because this is now. I'm a now guy.
Yeah.
But one thing I was reflecting on, and it actually kind of involves you, so is I feel like I've always been credited for having like good work ethic, and like I'm always down to work a lot. But I've been trying to grow in like organizational, effective, efficient work. You know, it's not just about quantity, about giving myself, I worked 12 hours this day, 12 hours the day before. It's like, well, what were you doing? I could just be like doing some really unhelpful or like menial tasks that
Shallow work
that doesn't really like push our company. I could just have been like behind the bar all day because I thought the team needed it, but maybe the team didn't even need it. I was just avoiding some work. But if we're just going by quantity of work, I could have been like, I worked so hard today. So I've been trying to, I have like a to-do list that I monitor and keep up with, but I've been trying to really almost like slow down my days to be more effective. And that is something I've been working on. Does that make sense?
No.
Try again.
That makes great sense.
Nice.
And the boring tag along to that is my answer, which is pretty much the same thing.
No way.
Yeah. My response to the interview question would be, well, Mr. Interviewer,
I already answered.
I thrive under structure. And the best way for me to, advance my goals and what I want to do even more, and for me to look back on my day at the end of the day and be proud of it, is to really structure my whole day out. So I've been really working on especially creating blocks of free time for myself to where I don't overextend the privilege of not having anything to do into areas where I need to be doing something, which would then bump down my productivity and things that I really want to do and goals that I want to achieve.
Very good. You're hired.
No, they'd be like, this guy's got a stick up his ass.
It's like, dude, chill.
He's not going to be flexible at all.
All right. Let me turn this over
Which
here.
is funny because I know, listen, if I would give that answer in this interview to Ross, okay, my name's Tommy, okay?
Hey, Tommy.
I, as Tommy, give that answer, Ross would come and be like, yeah, I think like I'm a little worried about the flexibility. Like he would say that.
And you would just keep asking about the set schedule. You're like, so it's a set schedule? Like I know I can make my calendar around this. I'm like, yeah, for the most part. You're like, okay, I just really want to make sure it's a set schedule so I can plan out my free time. I'm like, dude, chill out.
I'm back, boys.
Welcome back. Thank you for the coffee.
Did you answer well?
Hey, what are we drinking today, huh?
Oh, yeah. So Sam and I were on the way to a new cafe that's opening in Dallas, Georgia called Good Stuff Coffee House. And I am so excited for them to open. Victoria and the team there, beautiful space. It's in a little downtown area. Anyways, we were on the way to train their staff because they're using Valor. And we stopped at Tuesday, our favorite coffee shop in Marietta. They serve Bellwood coffee, which is our favorite roaster in the world.
Our favorite competitor.
Our favorite business in the world. And I got a little bag of their flagship. It's probably their flagship blend, right?
I would say so.
Reservoir.
I believe they would say so as well.
But anyways, yeah, so really tasty. Okay, so I said we would pepper in the interview questions. Here's another juicy topic. What do we think about dress code for interviews, right? You know, there's a lot of stigma, maybe a lot of social norms as it relates to what you should wear to an interview. If you're interviewing for a pit crew position, a barista position, what are you wearing, Big T? If you're gonna interview at Valor for pit crew, what would you wear?
Again, I think a lot of it is about due diligence. Okay, so if I was talking about specifically the pit crew,
Yeah.
and I really wanted this job, and I knew who Ethan, Ross, and Riley were, I have listened to some podcasts because I want to get really on top of this job. I know that Ethan and Ross are going to be interviewing me, and I know that Valor wears jumpsuits on the weekend.
Whoa.
I'm wearing a jumpsuit to the interview.
Hell yeah. I love it.
Wow.
I love it.
How would you take that?
I would if they wore a jumpsuit and then they were like really weird, I would just be really weirded out.
Right.
But if they wore a jumpsuit and it like seemed like a great fit, I would just be like over the moon. I would love
I
that.
would make sure that they know that I knew they
Yeah.
wore jumpsuits on the weekend, and that was my motivation.
And you'd make sure that we knew you weren't weird.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not weird.
I'd be like,
Right.
look at this, I'm not weird. Woo!
Like normal people celebrate. Woohoo!
Yep. Amazing. What
Like,
would you,
I
what
watch
would you
football.
What would I wear? Hipster coffee shop.
wear? No. Valor.
Yeah, Valor's a hipster coffee
okay. I
shop,
understand.
dude.
Yeah, it is. It is.
If
I
I was
think
just,
some hipsters would disagree with that.
yeah, it's not that cool. If I was in, if my interview was tomorrow, I'd go button up, man. I know
Yeah.
that it'd be a little nicer.
It's funny that you wear jumpsuits and you would wear the button up. I never wear jumpsuits, and I would wear the jumpsuit.
Well, I've honestly given some value to people dressing like a little nice lately.
Me too, man.
If people are rolling in Jimmy shorts and like slides and tank top, if it's all designer, all right, fine.
If
It's all
like
Gucci.
freaking Dior
Yeah, right.
or Gap.
But I'm like, everybody's got
Easy
a nicer little thing. So yeah, I'd wear like a button up and probably pants.
Pants. You'd go pants.
I'd go pants, and I'd have to say 2 shoes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going.
Same shoe.
I know exactly what I would wear because I just have a go-to like nicer but still kind of casual outfit. It's a short sleeve white button up. Wow. And like some Dickies.
Come on.
You know, and I think about Mikey's interview. I think she wore something that was maybe she wouldn't normally wear every day.
She's got a good blazer collection.
She went blazer, which I appreciated. You know,
Yes.
it's not a make or break whatsoever, but it does tell me something about how much they care. I feel like I was going to go somewhere else with it. I mean, maybe to zoom out a little bit. Since I said we did 3 rounds of interviews, right?
Yep.
This is maybe a more boring topic, but I think it could be the most important thing.
Wow.
It's one of the most important things. Our first contact with the person is you know what, guys? We're giving it all to you for free. Here is the whole process. Somebody interviews our hiring email. And says, I'm interested, or they attach a resume. We respond, hey, thanks so much for your interest. If you wouldn't mind sending your resume and a cover letter, and on the cover letter, answer these 3 screening questions. After that, if they kind of pass that, which is pretty easy to pass that.
What's your timeline? Like, are you cutting them off from the opportunity for the job if they don't respond within a certain time frame?
Honestly, no. I don't really think about that. For me,
I would.
It all has to do with how fast I'm trying to hire someone. Like if
I care right now,
Yeah.
dude. Get back in
if
2
we,
hours.
If we get if we interview 3 people and they're all a no, and then this girl gets back to me 7 days later, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna interview her. But it totally does weigh. Like if they reply the next day or the night of, I'm like, oh, noted. So after that, I call them or you call them and we have a talk all about logistics
Never we call them.
together.
Rarely. We'll be together sometimes, but it'd be really funny if we're like, hey, you've got Ross and Ethan.
Yeah.
And we're here doing your phone
Interview. Yeah.
Let's get started.
But we just get all this out of the way as far as how far away do you live? What's your commute like? How many days per week are you trying to work? What are your other commitments in life? Like,
Who's your best friend?
honestly, like there's like a little bit of like, where are you at in your life? Where
Right.
are you at in your career?
Yep.
And then in there, they might mention that like they have a boyfriend in Tallahassee and they go and visit them
Every weekend.
every weekend. And it's like, hey, that's fine. I love that for you, but you can't work here.
Right. Because then one of the questions is, can you work the weekends?
Yes. Can you work the weekends? It's kind of, that's been something that we have been pretty hard on since we've started. Like whenever we bring on someone new, they usually work both weekend days, which then allows some of our more senior employees to have one of those days off or both of those days off, which no one really has both of those days off, or it's very rare. But once we get through all of that, then we schedule an in-person interview. And, now that we got all the logistics out of the way, we can just talk about if they're a good culture fit.
Right.
Because there's been so many times where early on, like we would sit down with someone, they seem like a great fit, but they just can't work Sundays. Or they're like moving to Texas in 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, this was a waste of time. That's why we had the logistics call. So the
Yep.
first interview is kind of a lot of the questions that I'm asking today. The second interview is really just a free-for-all, honestly.
Right.
We just kind of take it case by case. We'll typically involve someone from our team that wasn't involved in the first interview. We usually like to change sceneries. So if our first interview is at the roastery, second interview is going to be at the cafe. Yeah, I mean,
Bless you.
before the second interview, we like to ask ourselves, what are we trying to learn about this person?
Yeah.
Like, and what else, if you will.
And what else?
Hit him with the ah.
Yeah, hit him with that but anyways, that's kind of our whole process. And then after that, we either offer them the job or we tell them they didn't get the job, which is always tough. And I hate doing it, but it has to be done.
What we always do. We never ghost people.
Yeah, right.
Ugh.
Never want to ghost people.
That would haunt me.
Okay. Boys, second interview question. Describe your ideal leader. What attributes do they have? How are you best led by someone?
Thanks for asking that. I really appreciate your intentionality with these questions.
Wow.
And may I say you're
use of
looking
that word.
very handsome today.
Oh my gosh.
But to get to your
I
question,
could get used to this.
to get to your question, I would say my ideal leader.
Why are you talking like that?
I'm interviewing. I'm being classy. God. Ideal leader, gifted communicator. They're not afraid to be honest with how I'm performing because I want them to be able to tell me the things that they need to say that would help me grow in my work environment. It's always great if I got along with them well, just from a personality fit. I always respect a leader who's, in the trenches with the team when the times get tough, and they lead by example. I always want to be around a leader that would only delegate to me something that he or she is always willing to do themselves, rather than kick back and delegate.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that come to my mind.
Interesting. Interesting answer. Crap. Very interesting. Huh.
I value intentionality. So whenever I think about my ideal leader, I just want someone who's going to help me and see my strengths and how I can play more into my strengths, and also see my weakness, my weak.
Your weak knees.
Excuse me on that one. So sorry about that. I'm
Yeah.
imperfect as well.
Interesting. Interesting.
I want someone who's going to see my weaknesses and how they can coach me and help me grow in the areas that I might fall short.
Because we all fall short.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you think my answer was too short?
I was going to comment on how short your answer was. I like short answers because it always leaves space for the interviewer to ask a follow-up question.
Do you have one?
No, I don't have one.
Like, what would you say some of your weaknesses are that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
speaking of all of your weaknesses, could you tell me more about that? No, all right.
What would you say?
My,
Bub?
my ideal leader,
Yeah, who's your ideal leader?
I would definitely echo a lot of the things you guys said since we're in a group interview right now. But to add even better stuff than you guys,
Interesting.
I would definitely say
Well, Winston Churchill once said,
I like a leader who is present. Somebody who is in the trenches with you for sure. That's important to me. I like a leader who is knowledgeable, who knows the operation better than I do, hopefully.
Ooh, yeah. Good.
So that they're able to support the team under them. And I like a leader that I can kind of be friends with. I don't expect to be friends with everybody at work, and I don't expect to have this budding personal relationship outside of work with my boss. Although I wouldn't be opposed to that. I just, I really enjoy someone that I can talk to, joke around with, have some camaraderie with, bond with. So that it's not just all business all the time. Because I think the balance of all of the hard conversations, the feedback, the growing, all that I enjoy. I enjoy that kind of being supplemented with just having that relationship with them and that camaraderie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How weird was it for you guys to answer that question? Because while I was talking, I was like, how do I say things where I'm really just trying not to talk about myself because I'm a leader? Or were you guys thinking about that at all?
Well, I was kind of thinking about that, but I have 2 bosses outside of Valor with music stuff. So I was kind of thinking about them, like, because when I play the wedding gigs, I get to not be in charge, and I get to just
Do you like that?
I love it.
Dude, I have a boss too. My Farmer Floyd.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, you get to. It's so easy to not be in charge. I hate.
All right,
I mean,
easy.
it honestly, at least for me. I mean,
It's relaxing.
maybe what I'm trying to say is that it's just a different muscle to just participate. All I got to do is show up and play guitar. I don't have to coordinate anyone. I don't have to know what time we got to be somewhere. I just got to follow everybody else.
Just got to harvest the kale.
Right.
22 bunches. Boom.
Right.
throw it in the trash because kale sucks.
But yeah,
Interesting.
I was thinking about my leaders with them, and they always will hang out with us, and I enjoy hanging out with them. So there's that camaraderie there.
Nice. You want to shout them out?
Yeah, Austin and Joel, owners of Steel Toe Stiletto.
Love you guys. Thanks so much for your support and sponsoring the podcast.
Well, we're not going to give away all our secrets, are we?
No, and we're pretty much out of time on
Yeah.
this pod.
Yeah, they're playing us. They're playing us off.
Oh.
I've already told you boys this. I would love to figure out a system for whenever we run long on Culture Couch and in the podcast, music like the Oscar music starts playing and plays us off.
Well, that's our time, guys.
Genius idea.
We hope that this was helpful. The reason we did this was because people who are in similar stages or beyond or before us they ask about this stuff, and it's really important to us, and it's something that we put a lot of thought and time and intention into. So we hope it was helpful. The one thing I wanted to say too is like when we were talking about just getting bodies in the space, I know a lot of you might be hearing this and be like, yeah, that's all good, but how do I even get people to apply to my work at my shop? Huh? What about that? And I'm like, well, I would just say, look at your company, look at yourself in the mirror and say, what kind of company, what kind of brand am I putting out there, and why? And genuinely ask, why would someone want to work here? And then look for those people. And maybe you find something you want to change, maybe you find something you want to enhance, but and that's what we found at Valor is there's a lot of awesome people that aren't good fits at Valor. So you want to find your right fit, and that's going to keep people happier for a longer time. And you're going to be doing people a service by saying no too when some types of people want to come work at your space. Say, I don't think this is a good fit for you. I don't think you're going to like this. So I would say do some introspection as well as before you just start changing your interview questions. What kind of people are you trying to bring into your space to perpetuate your brand?
Yeah, and to put it another way, we could list our entire interview in the show notes. We could tell you all of our interview questions, and that doesn't move you any closer to hiring great people, because it's your ability to hear people's answers, and it's your ability to discern what this person values that will push you towards having a better company culture. So just to reiterate what you're saying, it's way less about having the perfect list of interview questions, even though that is helpful. And it's way more about knowing what you value and figuring out if other people value that. And how do you figure that out? That's what the interview is all about.
And how do you have a company that's worth working for?
No doubt.
That's what we talk about a lot before this. But
Yeah, because if you have a company that's worth working for, you will naturally have great people fall into the company. And then if you have great people working for your company, other great people are going to want to work for your company.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
If you put value into your business, that's the starting point, right? That's the launch pad.
Yep.
And that was another episode of Launchpad. Thanks for listening.
Launchpad, a segment of Culture Couch, which is a segment of
Coffee
sometimes coffee,
which is an affiliate of Valor Coffee.
Yes.
And go to our web store and smash like.
Yes.
Love you guys.
Love you.
Love you guys and love you, the listener.
Oh, we're in love with you guys.
Catch you next time
On
Coffee Sometimes.